mean, you guys already decided it's just not the rest of us. Later. The meeting starts.
Can I have the,
Comes with french fries. How do you want to cook?
This is my Father's word, and to all listening ears, all nature sings and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world, the birds their carols raise, the morning bright, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's word. Oh, let me never forget that though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's word. Always should my heart be sad. The Lord is King, let the heavens ring. God reigns, let the earth be glad.
I hope you enjoyed it. Isn't that great? Let me see, John, you got the pledge and you're going to read the,
Sure.
there's the flag.
Okay, everyone please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And you're going to read the mission and the goal.
Ladies and gentlemen, several years ago, we had made some amendments to the bylaws, and we had added a section in the front page of the section of an Article 1, a couple of things. We added a goal, we added a mission, and then we had a vision. These are statements that are part of the bylaws. About a little over a year ago, when I was, for one meeting, I was acting chair that day, I had moved that we read this as a matter of routine, each and every meeting, and it was upheld unanimously. And unfortunately, it has not always been done. We have done it several times, but not regularly. And so, in the interest of answering the question, why are we here? What is your individual reason for wanting to be here? What should it be? And this is what the organization said it should be unanimously when we passed it to be part of the bylaws. And I'm going to read this now. The goal is to perpetuate conservative values. The mission statement is to promote conservative values by way of actively supporting the election of Republicans in Lockport Township, encourage participation in all areas of government, and be involved with LTRO and Will County Republican Central Committee programs. The vision statement, to maintain public well-being and civic health by way of conservative values through the election of conservative candidates into all levels of government, beginning with local interests. That is the goal, the mission, and the vision. And I'm going to make a motion here in a little bit about what we could do further about this, but I'm hoping this becomes a regular tradition so that we can all anchor on the same philosophies, hopes, and intentions for the organization going forward. Thank you.
Okay, along with the goals, I'm a Christian, and I believe that the only reason we're here is to become one with Christ. Christ told us what our goal is, and our goal is, and he told us, we call it the Lord's Prayer, but actually the Lord's Prayer was in the garden, and his prayer was directly to the Father. And he said to the Father, may they be one with me as I am one with you, and may they be one with each other as I am one with you. So that kind of gives us a purpose in why we're doing what we're doing. Because, death, we should not fear death. We're all going to end up dead. And this is only a preparation for eternal life. And so, and I think that's why this field could be a real Christian outreach to people that who don't know, and we can be a light to the world. But some of the things I think that are really important and I mentioned this, and I would like to keep the meetings quick. I would like to keep the meetings to a point, and that's why I've asked people, I've contacted people, and tried to get people who would contact me, so that when we're in the meeting, we're going to share ideas. So please look at the notes that I send out to you and comment on them. Now John was talking about a vision. Last week I gave a vision out, or at the last meeting, I'm sorry. I gave a vision out. And the vision was to double our size. So at every meeting, bring somebody with you. And then the new people bring somebody with you. Now you realize that if we do that, over the next, 14 of us, over the next 18 months, we'll end up with 4 with 20 zeros behind it. I don't think there's enough people in the world. So what I'd like to do is I'd like you to all to make a commitment to bring somebody new to the meeting and get them involved. There's nothing more invigorating than to go out and reach out for somebody and have them come forward. I think there's so many reasons why people wouldn't vote Democratic. I mean, there were 37,000 registered voters in the township of Lockport Township. 37,000! And of the 37,000, only 7,000 voted Democratic. Unfortunately, only 4,000 were Republicans that voted. But we've got a field. The harvest is there. And if we just go out and meet somebody and bring them in. I asked for everybody to spend 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day is 2 phone calls. I had Zion over at the house, and we made phone calls together. He was kind of uncomfortable with it. Then the next thing is to go out. If you're not comfortable with the phone calls, I'll go to your house, or you can come to my house. Then the next thing, if you're not comfortable knocking on the doors, you can come knocking on the doors with me, or we'll go to your place. So the vision is just 10 minutes. If you just spend 10 minutes, that's 2 phone calls. If you do it every day, that's 12, 6 times 2 is, and so we have, enough. We've got to do, here's the thing too, is that we've got a country to save. And that's what we should be working on, and getting out and knocking on doors and bringing in new people into the organization. I gave everybody a printout of the bylaws. Read the bylaws. The bylaws are who we are. I also gave everybody a copy of the Constitution of the state of Illinois and of the federal government. That's who we are. And if you look at how the state of Illinois and the federal government start off, they start off with we the people. The people are elected by us. We're the people that put them there. They can't dictate to us what we do not want them to do. But we can't sit around and say, well, what can you do? I have to listen to the government. You don't. They have to listen to you. You're the person with the power, not them. I also sent out some things that I think would help us as far as getting involved, but again, I didn't get any comments back. Please look at them. I sent out something about the parade. The Lockport's having a parade. We have an opportunity to do that. Another thing that we have is Lockport, and I gave everybody a map of Lockport. It's divided into 4 wards. The 4 wards are where they're going to be giving out money for people to have block parties. I've had a block party every year except for last year. It's a great opportunity to get to know the people in your neighborhood. We've got over 100 homes, and I think it's like 250 people. And I rent. Yeah, it's going to cost you some money, but the city's doing this now. The city's going to back us. I put out a tent, I put out chairs, and I put out slides for the kids. So, again, I mean, it's your neighborhood, it's your country. You've got to go out, you've got to make the difference. Work your precinct. Please, just spend 10 minutes a day. And if you can't spend 10 minutes every day, then spend an hour a week. And just go knocking on doors. I wanted to show you this. This is some of the examples that I had for stuff. Now, Kristen is going to make her presentation. She wants to be a committee member. Now, this is what Kristen has been doing. And this is a list that we get from the GOP. And so she calls these people, and you can see here she's got it set up for 50-year-olds, but then she also has 40-year-olds, and that's how she's divided it. This here shows you that she talked to these people here. No answer. That's another thing that we can check when we're checking the validity of somebody's address is, on these phone calls, if they don't answer, that could be a fictitious person. We should then follow that up with a knock on the door. But anyway, so these are the people that she contacted. This is interested, this is somewhat interested, this is not interested at all. This is the party code. The party code is 6 is Republican and, no, I'm sorry, 6 is Democratic and 1 is Republican. So this here person is pretty close to being a Democrat, and that's a Democrat. And but this person here shows that they're pretty close to being a Republican. Now the other
When do we pay?
Whenever. Yeah.
I wouldn't be so trusting.
Well, I'll be back.
I want to show you this too. This is what I got from the state. I'm sorry, from the county.
Okay. You want American cheese?
That's the
Cheddar? Raspberry.
okay, now this is her precinct, and if you can see this, this is the person that said that they were really interested. I think it was Dante Thompson. Okay, Dante Thompson. Now you can see here, this is how many times they voted 4 years ago. This is where they voted 8 years ago. This is where they voted 16 years ago. You can see that you're dealing with somebody who really isn't too committed. And you'll probably find that out in your backup. Now these are printouts that I have available for everybody. If you want to do it, if you know how to, if you're comfortable with Excel, I can send it to you, and you can work with it. If you're not comfortable with Excel, you can come to my house, or I'll come to your house, and I'll show you how you can segregate these things. If you notice here, you can't notice that, but these are all in her. Precinct. And I put these in alphabetical order. But you can, with Excel, you can manipulate it any way you want to. You can make it so that it's by the block. So you can do it as a walking list, just like as the GOP has got. All right, moving right along. We had 3 people that had, now this is what I had asked for. And that is, if you want to be a committee person, to send me your resume. And then we can, you can be, and then we can discuss it. If you don't have time to discuss stuff, so if you don't have time to send your resume, then that's kind of an indication to me like you're one of these people that don't show up. We've got a country to save. And let me see here. So Kristen, did you want to stand up, introduce yourself, and say anything?
Hi, my name's Kristen, and I live in Lockport. I'm originally from DuPage County in Hinsdale. My husband was born and raised, never left Lockport. So Lockport became my home, and the conversations my husband has told me about Lockport made me kind of want to get involved, get to know more, and get to know what all the stories he told me growing up, and feel kind of like that a community. So I met Bill when he was passing out the police. That was something we had common. And as my husband and I were sitting in, conversations as we all do. Oh, did you see that Lockport did such and such? One of the things was the new avenue and the turnabout. And we just talked, we shared our opinions. And it's like, wow, just by sitting here, isn't doing anything. So me being aggressive and being from New York, I said, hey, I'm going to get involved. So that's what I did. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Roger. So here's the thing I want to tell you about Kristen. She's been, I passed out those signs for the last year. I made up 1,500 of those signs, and I delivered them right to people's houses, and that's how I met her. But she was making phone calls long before, tonight's meeting, and she has also contacted many people who want to become active in the party. And, that's what we all got to do. All right, Roger, you're next.
Hello, I'm Roger, originally from Darien, and when I was in Darien, I was active and attended the West Suburban Patriots meeting, who we have the founder here today, Carol Davis, and another valuable member of the founding, Jan Shaw. I also participated in the DuPage County Tea Party, and I'm here on a mission. Our country is on the brink of major disaster, a totalitarian takeover, and I want to do what I can and wherever I can, make a difference, whatever it takes. So that's
Rogers has been active all his life. He's been active in so many different organizations, and he said he'll work wherever we need him, as far as knocking on the doors and meeting people. We have here we are. Our last but not least, Frank, you're up next for introducing yourself.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm Frank Kopernick, and I am a Lockport resident, and I am kind of new to speaking to a committee and things like that, and looking at possibly getting more involved. And what else do I say? I don't know what to say.
Okay. Frank's an independent businessman. He owns his own company. He's used to hiring and firing people. Our treasurer quit, so we've got a treasurer now that Frank said he'd take that place. And because of his years in...
I'm sorry, just have a question, because I did run for that position.
And he's got the experience of being a business person, and so that's that. All right. The next part of the meeting.
Excuse me, pardon me? Didn't you submit a resume to him to be considered for a precinct committeeman? Because these are the three people that were just talking. Greg Binkis?
No, he said he didn't want to.
I did not say that. Where did I say that? You never answer my phone calls. Is it in writing anywhere?
All right.
You're making up stories now.
I did not get, I mean, the resume that I got from you was certainly not complimentary. I didn't bring it. And I don't want to be a divisive in the group, you know, so.
Greg can stand up and talk himself then.
You gotta quit making up rules.
Yes.
Did you say the treasurer quit from last month? That was it. So who is it now? I
I'm
missed
sorry,
that.
what?
I missed who was the replacement.
Who the replacement was?
Yeah.
It was Judy.
Oh, I thought you meant Judy quit.
Judy
Oh,
He's
Right.
appointing
Right,
someone.
for Judy. And if you guys want to talk, here's a problem that I have. And that I've emailed you, I've sent out letters to you. You got to call me.
I didn't
You know,
see it. I didn't see that.
I sent out letters to the committee people.
I did not receive a letter.
Okay, okay, I also have to, I've been on AOL since 1987. I switched over to Gmail because I thought I could do more. I did mess up on some of the emails, so.
Well, no, I did see that email and I saw the addresses and I
Oh, okay.
I did check mine and everything was good, so, but I did not receive a letter. So I did not know Judy quit, I didn't know any of that.
Yeah,
And I didn't see an email about
That
it.
just happened.
Okay.
That just happened.
Oh, I thought you said
What?
that. I thought you said, I'm sorry, I just thought you said you put a letter out about that.
No.
I'm confused, okay.
No.
You said emails, not letters, is that correct?
Oh, emails, they're all emails, yes. Okay. All righty, moving right along. The next thing I wanted to do, I don't know if you guys are following this, but I was following it very closely when I was in Florida. I missed all the snow for this year, and when I was down in Florida, I was talking with, and her name just left me, Harrison in Arizona. What's her first name? Who's following Harrison in California, in Arizona? Liz Harris. And she's got 4,500 volunteers who are going door to door, checking out the validity of the voters. And in one single wide trailer, 2,500 people registered from that one trailer. They also have places where they registered from Kentucky Fried Chicken or from the post office, and they think they're going to get something like 400,000 people that voted that are not legit. And again, I think that that's up to us to go door to door and to see who's legit. Again, most of these calls that Kristen and I have been making, most of the calls, most of the phone numbers are not good. 80% of them are not good. So we've got to go to those. The next step after we finish all the phone numbers is we've got to go to those those addresses and see who's there. So, with no further ado, this is the Illinois Political Activists Conference, and let me see. Carol, you're going to address the group as far as what we can do. And this is Carol. She's an activist. She doesn't look very active.
Well, she's great on this show.
Well, yeah, I can tell you a little bit. Do you want me to
Why
just?
don't you get up there?
Whatever you want to do.
You can address us all.
Here, I even got this.
Well, I'm Carol Davis. I'm the chairman of the Illinois Conservative Union. We started out as a Tea Party group back in 2008. People think the Tea Party started when Barack Obama was elected. That is not true. The Tea Party started when George Bush and Hank Paulson started bailing out the banks and Wall Street. That's when it started. So I was a single mom working 2 jobs, and I said, baloney, that's not going to happen. So I thought, we could just shake these politicians up and they'd get, some sense left into them, and I could get on with my life. That was back in 2008, and I'm still at it. So we were a strong Tea Party group, 200 people at every meeting every month at our Patriots Breakfast. Roger knows how popular those were. But we got to the point a couple of years ago where we said, people are showing up, they're warming a seat, they think they're doing something, but you can't get 8 people out to walk a precinct. So we decided we were wasting our time putting on a show every month, and we went full into our statewide organization, which had started several years before that. So Illinois Conservative Union has a great history in Illinois. It was started actually back in 1974 by people like Henry Hyde, Phil Crane, some of the top conservative names in Illinois. They went strong for about a decade, but in 1984 something interesting happened. Ronald Reagan was president. And guess what? Illinois Conservative Union thought their work was done. So they kind of went on hiatus. Now, can you imagine what the state would be like if they had just kept going? That shows you the cost of freedom is eternal vigilance. The left never quits. The left never quits. But we're all busy. We're industrious people. We don't think you have to be babysitting your public figures, your public servants. But guess what? We have to be babysitting. So, So we picked up the mantle of Illinois Conservative Union about 5 years ago, and it built the statewide organization. So we have a network all over the state. And some of the issues that we work on are election integrity, top issue, school reform, education reform, school choice, and advocacy for legislation. So if you sign up for our email newsletters, our email newsletters are so good, people actually send them to us. We send them out and we get people forwarding them back to us because the information is so good. We have action items, we have click a link, fill a witness slip against this legislation, and we're always working on bettering our methods of monitoring legislation so we can catch it when it's in committee in Springfield before it gets on the House floor. And we've actually stalled a lot of bad legislation by slamming them with witness slips when it's in committee. So that's the kind of thing that we like to do. Now, as I said, one of our primary things is election integrity. And so we have focused pretty seriously on that over the last several years. So in Illinois, our votes come from what we call 3 buckets. We have your early voting bucket, we have your election day at the polling place bucket, and then we've got the evil, ugly vote by mail bucket. Well, guess what we need to do? We need to control where we can control. So we can control those first 2 buckets. We can have Republican election judges during early voting. We can have Republican election judges during voting on election day. I have been an election judge on the front lines for 18 elections here in Illinois. And everything we do as election integrity people, we want to be on the front lines and see how it's really done so that we can share that information with you. We don't want to just talk about discovery recounts. We were on the front lines of a discovery recount. We don't want to talk about how they process vote by mail. We were there when they were processing vote by mail. So we see the pitfalls, we see the advantages, we see what they're doing right, we see what they're doing wrong. So we've created a process specific to Illinois that we feel we can get a better handle on the fraud that's going on. And let's face it, folks, we all know there's fraud. Don't let the left shut you down by calling it the big lie or any of that stuff. There is fraud in our elections. Many of you have heard of the Heritage Foundation. Hans von Spakowski is one of their election integrity experts there. He has a database with thousands of prosecuted cases all across the country of election fraud. So if anybody tells you there's no fraud, go to heritagefoundation.org and send them to that database, and they'll be able to read it for themselves. So we're working with election integrity groups all over the country. And Bill, you mentioned Arizona and Liz Harris. We're trying to keep in touch with a lot of these groups that are working on the front lines on this stuff. And we're learning from them, they're learning from us. So it's all gonna, iron sharpens iron, as the Bible tells us. So we're going to all be pretty sharp when we work together like that. Now, We know that the bad actors are using the bloated, outdated voter rolls to put ghost voters in when they need them. We suspect it, and we are seeing a lot of people finding proof of that. So here's what we've come up with. The first thing is, step one, we have to clean the voter rolls. And how many of you have heard of a group in Washington called Judicial Watch? Great. About 4 years ago, I went and knocked on their door with one of my trips to Washington. And I said, hi, I'm from Illinois, and I want to talk to you about election integrity. And when they picked themselves up off the floor laughing, they actually invited me in and said, we'd love to hear about that from someone from Illinois. So it took me 4 years to build a great relationship with the guys at Judicial Watch. And last September, Illinois Conservative Union, along with our partner Judicial Watch, sued the Illinois State Board of Elections to force them to clean the voter rolls. That lawsuit is a federal lawsuit based on the National Voting Rights Act passed in 1993. And there's a Section 8 in there that mandates that counties keep their voter rolls clean. It has not been enforced. But Judicial Watch has won this suit in several states across the country. Ohio, Kentucky, Maryland. One example, they sued California. They were working with a team that Jan and I know well out in California, volunteers just like us. And these ladies found all kinds of anomalies in the voter rolls. So they had contacted Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch partnered with them. They sued the state of California. California knew they had them. They got the goods. So they came to a settlement with Judicial Watch. And in Los Angeles County alone, where there's about, I don't know, maybe 10, 13 million voters in Los Angeles County alone, Los Angeles County is now being forced to remove 1.5 million ineligible voters off of their voter rolls. That is the power of the federal lawsuit that we've launched against the state of Illinois. And like I said, that's in the hands of the 7th District Federal Court right now. So that's step one. We're doing our part. We're trying to get those voter rolls clean from the top down. Now, your part is cleaning the rolls from the bottom up. And Bill, you've had some great examples already of the work you're doing. This guy's got the goods here. You know, he's got the plan. As the frontline precinct committeeman, who knows your precinct better than you do? And you get out there, you talk to people. Jan will give you more information on that. She's a frontline precinct committeeman like I'm an election judge. You can't be both in Illinois. You have to be either a precinct committeeman or an election judge. And guess what? If you're not either one, you better get on it because it's all hands on deck time, folks. So nobody can sit on the sidelines. And if you see somebody sitting on the sidelines, grab them by the hand and bring them to this next meeting like Bill said. Because it's all hands on deck if we're going to save this country. There are no Democrats left, folks. They're Marxists. They're all Marxists. And the ones that still call themselves Democrats and aren't buying into those beliefs, then you better tell them, guess what, hon, you're a Republican. So it's up to all of us to inspire, engage, and energize people. Like Bill said, we have a country to save here, folks. This is the 11th hour. Okay, so I'm going to try to breeze through this pretty quick. Jan's going to cover more about cleaning the rolls as a PC from the bottom up. Then you need to hold your local election authorities accountable to remove those ineligible voters. Because we've heard horror stories as we've talked to groups all the way down in Effingham, Springfield, over in Peoria. We'll go anywhere in the state to talk to people about election integrity. And the PCs tell us, hey, I turned in names, you know, year after year after year, and they're still on the voter rolls when I walk my precinct. They're not taking them off. So we are actually working with some attorneys to create a forcing mechanism against the county clerks. And you may have a good county clerk. And that county clerk may be wanting to do the right thing. But the left has got these people so terrified about removing names from the rolls that, you know, They don't want MoveOn.org showing up and, creating a ruckus. So they just kind of let things slide. They are breaking the federal law. And so we are going to get a legal forcing mechanism that you as precinct committeemen, you can go to your doors, you can find out, hey, my mom died 20 years ago, she shouldn't be on the rolls anymore. Thank you. Would you mind filling out this legal affidavit? We're going to turn it into the county clerk. She should be taken off the rolls. And then if that clerk doesn't, we're going to have an attorney that's going to be able to put a forcing mechanism in place to make sure that gets off of there. So we're cleaning from the top down with our lawsuit. You're going to clean from the bottom up. And those ghost voters, hey, it's a numbers game, folks. They're going to try to put more on as quick as we take them off. That's why it's eternal vigilance. Now, what else we need to do is we need to dissect the voter data. And Jan will get into that a little bit more as she's talking about the precinct committeemen. But I'm sure we've got some data nerds in here. Yeah, look, see? So your eyes are going to light up when Jan starts talking.
I literally have a degree in it.
Wonderful. That guy is a diamond here. So you guys are going to be thrilled to have people that love data because data is your friend. And guess what? Data is the trap that you catch the bad guys for. Now, the next step is, how many of you know your Republican election judges in your precinct? Good, great, wonderful. As a precinct committeeman, part of your volunteer role is to recruit great election judges. And the Republican Party has been kind of bad at this. Our Republican election judges have to be made to feel part of our team. Because guess what? They are an integral part of our team. Well-trained judges can stop fraud at early voting and in the polling place on election day. And I, after working 18 elections as a judge here in Illinois, I have created a guerrilla election judge training. And I gave that as a trial before the April 6th election, and the judges that took it before the election called me after the election, and they said, we felt so empowered going into that polling place because the training the county gives you has to be very, nonpartisan. Our judges in the polling place are our frontline combat veterans. And then you as precinct committeemen can be poll watchers on election day, and you can enforce their efforts by working together. I would even suggest to Bill, as you all are in your precincts recruiting good election judges, you get them to sign up with the county. They have to do that in order to be a judge, get assigned and get paid. But then you have them submit their names to your township organization so that you can run their records, see how they vote, make sure they're Republicans, because we all know there's some wolves in sheep's clothing out there. So we want to make sure they're Republicans, we want to embrace them, make them a part of our township, and encourage them to be part of the team and work with us and for us as we go. I'm sorry, Bill, am I taking too long? I'll try to hurry up here because Jan's got a few things to
I
get.
got you for another 15 minutes.
Okay, all right, because I know time is precious. So anyway, we're gonna recruit them, we're gonna vet them, we're going to make them feel part of our team, and then guess what? I'll come out and I'll give them my guerrilla election judge training. And we will make sure that they are empowered when they go into the polling place. So those are some of the things that we can do. Now, when they sign up at the clerk's office, they hopefully get called to get the training. That's another area where you all can help. Because we get complaints all the time. I signed up to be a judge and nobody ever called me. Nobody ever had me come for training. Nobody ever assigned me to a polling place. And then at the last minute, the clerk's sending notices to your county chairman. Hey, we don't have enough Republican election judges. It's a game they're playing, folks. They're trying to keep our judges out of the polling place. I've actually showed up in my own polling place in DuPage County and had 7 Democrats and 2 Republican judges there with the clerk's office crying that they didn't get. I'll take questions right after. So there's a game that some of these clerks are playing to keep Republican judges out of these polling places. So as a township organization, you connect with your judges, say, hey, have you had your training yet? Hey, have you gotten an assignment yet? Which polling place are you assigned to? Maybe someone in your group can be tracking that, you know. And then if maybe the head of your county, go to the clerk, pull a list every single week leading up to an election and say, who are our Republican election judges? Give them all a call. Make sure they're connected to a township organization. We are a team. We have to start thinking like the left does. I was a poll watcher in 2012 in Madigan's district. I brought 200 poll watchers in for the primary when we primaried Michael Madigan. And believe me, those chairmen and those judges are like this. They know each other well, and that's how the Republicans have to be, so we can work together effectively. So we're going to make sure the clerk's assigning our judges. We're going to make sure they're well-trained. Judges have power in the polling place. Did you know the Illinois election statute says that there is no head election judge in any polling place in Illinois? Every judge has equal power. That means if I see something fishy going on, I can shut that polling place down on election day until a state's attorney comes. And most judges don't know they have that power. So that's the kind of training I will give them. A few additional quick points, and then Jan's going to get on the frontline stuff. Let's not wait for the dream of voter ID, folks. Look at who's in Springfield. It's not going to happen, so don't hang your coat on that. We've got to use other tactics to get this. We live in Realville. That's a dream. And heads up, at the very first opportunity, the Democrats are trying to make Illinois an all vote by mail state. You may not be aware, but Oregon, Washington, Colorado, they automatically mail a ballot to every single voter on their rolls. Do you want that to happen in Illinois? That's where our Democrats are heading. And if that happens here, you can kiss it all goodbye, folks. So we have to watch for that, and we have to fight it tooth and nail. We have to educate the public about how bad that would be. And HR 1 on the federal level, if you haven't made phone calls, even to Dirtbag and Duckworthless, then you better be on that phone and be on them and tell them we don't want that. So that will destroy the country. HR 1 is the, what do they call it? The politicians.
The corrupt politicians.
The Corrupt Politicians Act.
No, that's what they call it.
So the GOP has a seat at the table. Push back. You and the Democrats both have a seat at the table. Take your rightful seat. Take your power. Don't let them take it away from you. And with that, Jan's going to come give some tips for frontline precinct workers.
I'm going to have a handout, some handouts we put together last summer. And on the way over, we were chit-chatting about this and realized they actually could use updating, but for now, they're good enough. It's some thoughts that I have put together. I am a precinct committee person. Milton Township, which is the center of DuPage. I've been there since 2014. I had run for school board in 2013, came in number 5 out of 9, which isn't totally bad, having not been involved. And maybe I should back up a little further. I thought I was paying attention because I've always voted, right? But the truth of the matter is I had 4 kids, I worked full time. I didn't have time to pay attention. There's nothing like what I'm doing now. Now that the kids are grown, I have time. Basically, Bill covered a lot of it. We want you paying attention to who lives in your neighborhood. Watch for movie trucks, know who's coming in, know who's going out, for sale signs, etc. I personally now have the time that I walk the block every single day, and I say hi to the kids, and I say hi to everybody who's out gardening. The best time to catch your neighbors is when the weather's gorgeous and they're working in the yard. Because then they can't pretend they're not home. Okay? So get to know your neighbors. That's a number 1 thing. Number 2 is keep an eye on what's happening. When it comes to the removal, the MVRA should touch on Section 8 says they have to clean the voter rolls. There's 3 states a person could be in. Active means they've registered, we expect them to vote. Inactive means we think they've moved or died, but we haven't verified it yet, so they mark them inactive. The list the county gives you is probably just active voters, but they get marked inactive, and then they can show an ID to prove they are who they say they are, and that they still live there, and they can vote. With same-day registration, it doesn't really matter. And then there's what they call canceled, which means once they've been marked inactive, when they're marked inactive, they send them a postcard, and if they don't get back to them, then they send them a second postcard, and after 2 federal elections and 2 postcards, they can be canceled. And canceled means they're kept around for historical purposes, but they can't vote unless they re-register from scratch again. Make sense? So there's active, we expect to vote. Inactive, we think they moved. The county has reason to believe they moved or reason to believe they died. They've sent them a postcard, they're waiting. If they hear back, they can take them off immediately. If somebody gives them a death certificate, they come off. If they can get a change of address notification from the post office, they can come off. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of databases the clerk can use to take them off immediately. But if they don't find that they've moved based on those databases, somebody probably needs to tell them that they've moved or died. And then they're going to go through their little process that could take up to 4 years to actually get them off the list. So don't be totally surprised at that. But once you turn it in and they marked them as inactive and sent that postcard out, they should be off the list that you're getting as a printout to contact. I look for things like multiple last names on the house. And I ask, because it is possible that grandma's moved in, or a married daughter's moved back home with the family, right? So there are, or somebody got married and didn't take their spouse's name. There are reasons that you'll have multiple names, last names on that list that are valid. The hardest ones to get off are the grown children, because they register to vote at their parents' house. You know, when they're 18, they go to college, they vote absentee from their parents' house, and then they move out and they get a job and they get their own house, and nobody ever thinks to tell the clerk to take them off the registration where they started. Okay, and the only way to know about those is to ask, because you don't know, even if you never see them around, are they off at college? Did they join the military? Are they overseas as a missionary and using this as their primary address? It's perfectly legitimate. So you ask, but we do watch for those sort of things. So the big thing here is just keep track of it, make sure they get turned in. I'm glad that she said something about it, data people, so you know, you've got somebody here who likes data. We'll talk later. But you need 1 or 2 people from the township who can act as a liaison between all the precinct committee people and the county clerk, so that you're not all calling the county clerk individually. You turn your stuff into one person here in the township, have them turn it in to the clerk then as a whole group. I typically turn in the name, the address, when I think they moved, why I think they moved or died. You know, they died during February 2020. You know, then they can go back and they can see, can we find a death record? It makes it a whole lot easier on the clerk to locate it if you could give them that. Or the house sold in July of 2020. That's a good thing to tell them too, because if the house sold, that means the folks that used to be on there or are still on there need to come off, and the new folks are fine. Sometimes you'll see that the owners of the house came off because that was a couple, but their grown children who haven't lived there in 10 years are still on. Because when they turned their change of address into the post office, they put the 2 people that were living there and forgot about the kids who still occasionally get some mail there. So that sort of thing's going on. I'm going to tell you also, one of the issues we have, and the reason we have our lawsuit, is the fact that Illinois law conflicts with federal law. Federal law says anybody who wants to clean up the voter rolls can do so. Illinois law says the only people who can get voter data are political parties, political action committees, or candidates. Okay? The Illinois Conservative Union is a 501c4. We don't fall into that category, which is why they're saying you can't do it.
Would you repeat, there were 3, what did you say? That was 3 people that what? 3
Can get the data. Political action.
Political action committees, political parties like the GOP or the Democrats or the Libertarians, and candidates. So people who have a reason. And by the way, when you do get this data, the data is for use by the party and for you for canvassing and helping candidates out. Don't use the data as a mailing list for your personal company. Okay?
a violation of the law.
It's a violation of law if you use this as a mailing list for something that's commercial. Okay, be aware of that, so don't do that. But anyway, you should be able to get the voter list. You can look at other data that you have access to and help clean them up. The other thing I'm going to tell you, when you're, before the election, you know, she talked about those 3 buckets: early voting, vote by mail, and the polling place. We have discovered that the county has to keep track of every vote by mail ballot that they issue, with the date when it was requested, the date when it was issued, and then a date when it's returned, and how it can, you know, right? And whether it was returned by mail or if they voted early, they have to track that stuff. So they have a data log someplace that tracks what bucket people voted in. And you're only allowed to vote in 1 bucket, right? And if you're voting by mail, you ought to see something that says the ballot was issued and it's yet to be returned. And then on another day, you should see that it came back and was a good ballot. Or maybe it was a challenge ballot because somebody didn't like the signatures on them. But then the voter has a chance to cure that and turn it to good. Once a ballot's been marked as mail and good, or early voted and it was a good ballot, those things should never disappear, right? Because that means they're set to be counted, or maybe even already counted. In the case of early voting, when they do it on a machine, it's already in there. You can't pull it out, because you don't know who did which ballot. Likewise, with vote by mail, it comes in an envelope that they sign their name and their address and stuff on the outside, so you can verify signatures and make sure that's a good vote by mail ballot. But once they've got it good, and it's the election day, at the night of the election, they're going to start opening those things up, and they're going to start feeding them through the tabulators, or counting them. Once the ballot and the envelope are separated, you don't know which ballot goes with which person. Okay? So I'm going to tell you one of the other things you want to do is you want to get those things so that, you know, when a candidate's, when you walk as a precinct committee man or as a candidate, you want to know who's got a ballot for mail out, because you want to hit those people early. They're apt to send it in soon, right? If you think people early vote on a regular basis, you want to go knock on those doors early, right? People who vote on the polls, you may want to wait till a little bit longer. And also, if people have voted early or they've already returned a vote by mail ballot, if everybody in the household's already voted, why go there now? They voted, right? Don't waste your time. Hang on to those files. Because one of the other things I'm going to tell you you're going to want to do is you're going to want to compare from one date to another, to another, to another. Because they should be able to give you those log files virtually every day. I'm seeing your head nodding. Is this making some sense to you? Okay, and because Illinois will allow vote by mails to come in up to 14 days after the election, providing they were mailed on the election, every one of those ones that comes in post-election, you want to look back to the election day one and say, was it already issued and yet to be returned? Because if it wasn't issued by election day, it shouldn't be coming in a week later. Now, I'm going to give you the one exception, is I have seen things called federal write-in ballots. So apparently our military overseas can do a federal write-in, but that's strictly for president, senator, and congressional district that are out in Washington, D.C. That should not affect any of your local races. Am I making sense? Okay. So keep all the data you get your hands on. Because what you're going to do, and you're going to have a little tiny team that loves to play with data that's going to do this, is post-election, they're going to look at the vote by mail and early voting logs to make sure that we didn't have people marked good and then gone. Because that means they might have voted twice or somebody might have voted on their behalf. The truth of the matter is, if you see an anomaly, something that doesn't make sense, you don't know who did it, you don't know if it was actual cheating, all you know is there's something here that needs investigating. Okay? And if you get enough of those, that can flip some races, especially as we've seen a whole lot of races change post-election as the vote by mails get counted. You also want to look, after the election, you want to get a list, at least one for your township, of not only who voted, but whether they voted early by mail.
Yeah, that data that I showed you up there, that's what that list showed.
Yeah,
It
I
showed-
vision's lousy, I couldn't see close.
Yeah, it showed how they voted.
So it doesn't say early
yeah.
mail or the polling place.
Right.
And you want to compare that to that log file that said who had the vote by mail ballots and who had, et cetera, make sure that they're consistent.
Maybe we should take some questions.
Okay, at this point, I'm pretty much done with the prepared stuff. So how about some questions? I saw a hand over here.
Okay, so as we get a voter by mail goes out, it comes back a week later, we know that. We know that that happened. So when can we contest those those votes that came in or out? We found out, hey, so-and-so voted, but they don't even live there anymore. When is that vote challengeable?
I don't know, but that's an excellent question. We're going to have to ask some lawyers.
Because once the results came back, and we know we were losing certain spots by 70 votes, we should have been in every precinct going back down every voter to find out who does and who doesn't live there.
And that's an excellent point, because vote by mails are the
But
easiest
once they
ones to
separate
draw.
things, no,
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
They voted for.
Well, if you can catch it and you know they don't
Well-
live there, and you can get them to remove them
So
before
you're
the
trying to
ballot
tell me when they
and the envelope are
switch
split, then there is a possibility that it gets pulled.
But when my ballot comes back into the county, they could be counting those things way beforehand. Those things could be going through the machine a week before.
They're not allowed to open until the day of the election.
But we have found county clerks are making up their own rules. This is why we are getting a group of lawyers involved on the local level, because we're finding that the county clerks don't necessarily know the law or follow the law. And you know what? It's stories like yours, please. That's why I gave everyone a card. The more information we have from you, the more ammunition we have to help get this sorted out. So we also, on our election integrity site, have an incident report form. Because guess what, folks? Rumor, innuendo, and hearsay doesn't hold up in court. We need reporting and we need affidavits.
Right, so there are holes in the process, and we're trying to identify those. And if you catch that somebody shouldn't have been registered and they returned a vote by mail, if it hasn't been split from the envelope yet and counted, there is a possibility that with proper complaints to the right person, it could get pulled.
And that's your county GOP chair's job. They have legal counsel. That's when you would take it up the chain, not your local township, but your county. Your county has a seat at the table with the county clerk. And your county GOP chair needs to get involved in those kind of situations.
And your
Okay.
chair may or may not know that.
You know, I want to respect everybody's time. I know that everybody had planned things to do. So the meeting is over at 8 o'clock. So it's 8 o'clock now. I want to thank everybody for coming. And I need a motion to have the meeting
I
closed.
have a question.
Yes.
You said that you've appointed a new treasurer, who's that person again?
Frank,
Yeah.
yes.
Stand up, Frank. Motion to adjourn.
I've got a motion for adjournment. I have a second. Okay, Santa
All in
Claus
favor?
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you very much. The meeting's adjourned.